What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I wish it was a happy Sunday. The last time Blake and I did this was the Sunday after we beat Florida A&M in the home opener. But that
Yes.
was an FCS win, and FAU falls to 0-3 against FBS opponents, Division 1 FBS opponents. 1-3 overall, 0-3 against FBS. Not a great day here in Boca Raton, especially when the city was so excited to play a 4-0 undefeated team that was receiving votes in the top 25 and to compete with them through the first 3 quarters of the game within 5 points with 10 minutes left. But complete collapse on the defensive side of the ball. We spoke to Coach Kitley, Caden Velkamp, Easton Messer, Jay Sean Platt, Kamari Johnson all last night in the loss and learned a bunch of stuff. But Blake, let's talk about the start of the game. First half happens. Memphis, it's a big play downfield. Opening drive, they go to Sutton Smith. Brendan Lewis is looking perfect, throwing a bunch of dimes. They go up 7-0. Caden Velkamp to Easton Messer on the next drive. We score. We make it 7-7. The rest of the half is back and forth. FAU scores a touchdown by Jay Sean Platt on a jet sweep. It's a missed extra point, a snap fumbled, and then we try to throw it with our placeholder, Logan Lupo. He tries to run around, roll out right. We go up 13-7, and I want to ask you just that first snippet of the game, the first quarter, 13-7. What was your reaction, and how confident were you feeling after we're beating a team receiving votes in the top 25?
I wouldn't say completely confident because you got a lot of football left at that point in the game, but I think it did show the ability of this FAU team, especially that FAU offense, to move the ball downfield effectively, and that was something we haven't really seen consistently against good teams. We didn't see it against Maryland. Um, Against FIU. Obviously, that was a high scoring game, but it was good to start out hot early, which I think FIU has struggled with throughout the season. They haven't been coming out strong enough, and that's what has honestly led to them losing some games. I think this was the best start to a game they've had against um an FBS team. Obviously versus FAMU, they were able to start off pretty quickly and get going. Um, I liked what I saw from the offense. I thought Velkamp looked good. I think the story of this game will be that Caden Velkamp played great. Obviously, I mean, he even said in his presser 26 points isn't enough to win a football game. And I agree and I disagree with that statement in a sense, just because I mean, you see other top 25 teams putting up 26 points and winning. I don't think 26 points is enough with this FAU defense with how they've been playing. It's just not I mean, clearly the offense is going to need to give them a little bit more help and a little more cushion to pull out some of these games because this FU defense has allowed quite a bit of points every single time they stepped on the field. Overall, though, start out the game 13-7. Obviously,
But
some
Blake,
confusion on
let
that
me
extra
let me
point.
stop you there. I don't want to go overall. I want to go snippet by snippet before we
Yeah.
get to our overall thoughts because we'll get there. You guys just wait a second. Hold on with us. Stay tight. We're getting there. But it's 13-7. We trade a pair of field goals. It's 16-10. End of the second quarter. And this is when Memphis figures out their bread and butter. They go 7 straight runs to DeRozie. He goes all the way downfield. He gets a big 36-yard rush that gets them into FAU territory. And then he finds the end zone with, I believe it was 30 seconds left in the half. It's then 16 all. Memphis converts the extra point, 17-16. They kick off. We fumble the kick. We recover it on special teams. Good recovery. 17-16 at half. You said you weren't totally confident at the end of the first quarter. I was feeling very good. The fact that we were competing with Memphis, the fact that we should have been tied with them at halftime if it weren't for a big special teams error. Halftime comes. What are the overall thoughts?
Obviously down one, you still got the whole half of football left. Getting the ball, I thought, well, you have an entire halftime to scheme up the plays, and obviously the offense didn't really do great. Uh, if I'm correct here, offense moved the ball a little bit, and wasn't this the point where they pinned them back at like the 1 yard line after the punt after that first drive?
Yeah, sure. You're talking about the second half, right?
Yeah, yeah. Second
Yeah. So
half.
exactly. Yep. We punted it down to the Memphis one.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a big special teams guy, so I was very happy to see Logan Lupo drop that. I was right near the end zone there because I was doing photography, and that ball was at literally like the half-yard line, almost in the end zone, and I was very excited because FAU had played when they had played the field position game well in the first half. They were able to capitalize and score off of it. And so I was like, this is big. Even though we didn't score, if we hold them here like a 3 and out or even one first down, you're getting the ball in a good spot. So coming out of halftime, obviously you don't want to see the offense, not score. But when you get that good field position, I was feeling good. And then obviously they burst off the 90-yard touchdown run, which was, I think that was a big demoralizer for the defense in general because it was third down. I don't think they expected to burst off that big run. And it really kind of even you could just hear it in like the stadium, like it kind of sucked the life out of it a little bit. Even though you're down by one, like just seeing that 90-yard touchdown run happen, uh, you have to be a really good team to respond to that adversity. And I don't think FAU stepped up to that challenge. I really don't think they like that play when you go back in like when you go back through the game, that's the one that stuck out to me the most. Just that FAU defense really, I mean, you can't let them burst off 90 from your own 10-yard line, and possibly that's a play where you're possibly getting the ball back at your 40, and now you're getting it back at your 25, and the scoreboard changed.
100%. And I want to go back to the point where you were talking about the punt to the 1 yard line by Lupo, the great special teams play. So, what I think, and I'm not going to blame it on this, but I think this is a big part of it. So, DeRozie gets a rush. I think it was about 1 or 2 yards. It's second down and 8. It's at their own 2 or 3 yard line. Then Brendan Lewis makes like a 6 yard pass outright, and it's third down. It's third down and 3. Memphis has an injured player, and we stop for like 2 minutes in a timeout. And I'm not sure after the injury, the defense was fully set up for the big rush by DeRozie, where he goes 90 yards there. I feel like I'm not blaming it so much on the big stoppage we had for the injured player, but when there's an injury, you got to be in the huddle telling them it's 3rd and 2. They're obviously going to rush the football. We got to stack an extra guy in the box. We got to be ready for the run. And FAU just wasn't. And I feel like that was the game changer. They go up 24-16, and from there, FAU's playing catch up for the whole game. They didn't get a lead back after that point. And it's just a part where its defenses collapse. After the timeout that goes on, it's a full collapse by the defense. And, you got to stop DeRozie. Kitley was talking about it. We knew what they were going to do. We knew they were going to run. That was going to be their game plan. That's what Ryan Silverfield likes. They only threw the ball 19 times. And when we know they're going to run it on 3rd and 2 in their own territory, that's stuff where it's on the coaching, I would have to say. And I'm not blaming the full thing on the coaching, but in that timeout, what I'm saying is I would rather have Coach Dewhurst, who is on the sideline, telling everyone, big third down. We could get it back in very good field position. Let's get off the field. Let's get a stop. Absolute outburst there from DeRozie. 90 yards, and we get it back. We go 3 and out. Then they get it back. They go 3 and out. And it's a bit of stalls over on, I believe, at the end of the third quarter. That is when we had a big scoring a big scoring moment in the game. We get it back. I think it was Velkamp to a seam, which was like 20 yards. We get in their territory. Then Velkamp to Messer, which is a 40-yard ball downfield. We get inside their 20. That was a beautiful throw by Caden Velkamp. Easton Messer was double covered. He went down the left side of the field. Huge play. We're inside their 20, and it's 4th and 5. They get a few stops. We get the false start penalty, and it's 4th and 5. We kick the field goal. It's 24-19 with 2 minutes left in the half. Blake, a bit of a different question here, but when it's third quarter, when there's 2 minutes left, when we're competing with Memphis in this game, if you had to evaluate Caden Velkamp at this point, the defense at this point, Easton Messer, the running game, everything, what are you thinking in each aspect? 2 minutes left, they get the ball, we're down 5.
Look, I would have evaluated that offense as pretty effective. They quite honestly, I think the offense played a really good game. Everything besides the run game was well. Oh, I mean, they were passing the ball good. The run game wasn't there, but I think Veldkamp, his talent was able to kind of make up for the fault in the run game. He was the leading rusher last night, so that is all that needs to be said about how the FAU run game did. The chunk plays is what killed the defense, and I think at that point of the game, that's what I was understanding. Like, you can't let up the 90-yard run. You can't let up the big deep balls that they had let up previously. And that's what hurt them. The chunk plays is what hurt them. I thought the defense was like, gosh, it's tough because the defense made some great plays throughout the course of the game. I can't discredit that because some of the sacks that they made, there were some great times where um, we played great coverage in times where you saw the run game get stopped, but the chunk plays are what killed us. And that's what I was going into in the fourth quarter. The mindset was like, if you are able to control the ball, not give up the chunk plays, FEU's got a chance to win it. And that was my mindset. 2 minutes left. Obviously, you want six there after being in the red zone, but limit the chunk plays and hopefully try to get a score.
Yeah, and then they get the ball back. Brendan Lewis uses his legs here, and I definitely agree with you. You want the score, but it's a field goal. You limit it to 5 points. Even if they go down, they score a field goal, that's fine because it's still a one possession game if that is the case. As I mentioned, Lewis, he starts running it by himself, and we knew they didn't have one wide receiver who was dominant. In Lewis's 13 completions that he had, it went to 5 different receivers. And as we talked to John on the preview show, he said in each of the games, Memphis so far this season in the first 3 games, or 4 games, because they didn't have their bye yet, has had 9 different receivers catch a ball. So we didn't have one dominant receiver, obviously, but then at this point in the game, we had the big play, which was Lewis drops back, he looks right, and he has like 10 seconds, and he decides to go deep. Cortez Braum, huge catch. He had
Yeah.
6 catches for 127 yards. He was their leading receiver. He gets that huge catch. They're inside our, I'd say, 30 around this point, and then they run it a few times. Then they're at like our 20, and they go to Brom, and he gets a touchdown, 9 plays, 65 yards. And that's with 14 minutes left. So 30 to not 31-19. It's starting to get in a big situation. And it felt like every time the offense started to play good and the offense would score, the defense would collapse. And every time the offense was getting a 3-and-out, the next following drive, the defense would get a 3-and-out. You
Yeah.
didn't see both sides of the ball at any time in the game both be as strong. And it seemed like that was a big problem because that's what I thought at least. 31-19, we get it back. Blake, right now in the game at 31-19 to start the fourth quarter, how are you feeling?
I wouldn't say I was feeling good because you look at the scoreboard 31-19, you're like, well, two score, you got a whole fourth quarter to play. But I will say this, and it's kind of a critique on FAU, and you just mentioned it. Like you mentioned a specific example, offense and defense did nothing. Like FAU's momentum in the second half never like stayed. And I know we're about to touch on this because it's a play that happened pretty early in this fourth quarter. But um, anytime FAU got a sliver of momentum or a chance to crawl back in the game, it always got immediately reversed. And I mean, you can't control that. I mean, you can control it, but you can't as well. Like, you have to build up to really control the pace of a game, and FAU really didn't do that. 31-19. You look at the scoreboard, and you're like, two-score game, you maybe have a shot, you got to score, and you got to make a stop, and then you see where we're at. So that's how I was feeling. I was a little iffy, but you still got to have some hope because it's only a two-score game in the fourth quarter, and we saw the offense was able to produce some stuff. So I was feeling all right.
Yeah, at that point, I was sitting next to Hudson, and you guys have seen his content here on the Night House. He was very optimistic. I was at the point where it's 31-19, fourth quarter. I know this FAU team enough. I know we're not coming back, but we get the ball back and we go down the field, and it's Xavier Terrell on the touchdown. Now, what gets us into their territory was a big play there from Caden Velkamp to Jay Sean Platt, and the whole momentum at this point it flips. But what happens is Memphis, they have the ball, they fumble. It's Kamari Johnson there on the play. And guys, sorry, I know I'm getting ahead. Let's back up before then. We get the ball, we go for it in our own territory on 4th and 5. We get stopped. Blake, before we get to the full Kamari Johnson, I want to ask you, Zach Kitley's had a lot of confidence in this offense. He's had a lot of confidence to leave this offense out there on 4th down. I want to ask him what goes into it. It's a 2-possession game. It's the fourth quarter. There's still 12 minutes left. Why are we going for it on our own side? What goes into that? I want
I
to ask
mean,
you, what can you kind of relate to that situation? If you're the head coach, are you going to go for it at your own territory? 4th and 9, sorry, in your own territory. Or are you punting it away? And do you like this aggressive play calling from Kitley? Because he's the most aggressive play caller in college football. That's the reality of it.
4th and 9 in your own territory. I mean, it's not a strong likelihood. I don't think it's a popular decision by any means, but I think you. I mean, I think you go. I think you give it a chance. You're 12 minutes. You're down 2 scores. If you get it, that's a big momentum boost. But like, all right, let's think about this one here. I think our offense is very talented. I think Velkamp's very talented. I do think it's good to give them a chance. Because you have time left to possibly make a stop, and as we see that FAU does just that. You're really putting a lot of faith in your playmakers there, and we almost did convert that first down. I mean, just short of the line to gain. Um, I think with our offense and how the game was going, I think it was a good decision to go for it. But I think going for it in that spot is very situational. But I think Kitley, um, going for it on 4th and 9, I could have seen it going either way. But he made the decision, and that's how that's how it was, and that's how this game went. I think if you do punt, you play field position, which could have been really really, I mean, better for this team in general because you get the ball back closer if the defense makes a stop. But I think you can stand by Kitley here. I can see his perspective at least.
Yeah, I could see it more so than the FIU call where it's 4th and 14 in the third quarter and you leave the offense out there. This one's a little more understandable than that. However, if it's me, you have all 3 timeouts. You still have 12 minutes left. If it's me, I'm going for it there. I mean, I'm punting the ball there. I'm not going for it there. And game goes on. They get the
Especially with
ball.
Logan Lupo. We saw down multiple punts inside the 20, punt at the
Zach,
1. I mean, I feel like you got to take advantage of if you have a good punter. I think Logan Lupo is a NFL quality punter from what I've seen out of him this year. I think you got to rely on him to really change the game for you, give you that momentum, give the defense something to go out there. You maybe get a safety if he hits a good punt. I mean,
I agree 100%. So then Brendan Lewis, he steps up. I think it was a sack. I didn't see the ball come out. I
yeah,
just saw him go down in a sack. Kamari Johnson gets the recovery. He almost goes all the way for a touchdown, and he was mad that he didn't get it, obviously, in the press box, but in the press room. But they did score. It was Xavier Terrell on the rush. Jamari Sands went down, and we'll get more injury status on Jamari throughout the week soon.
Yeah,
From there,
I got a great I got a great view of this when it was happening actually. There wasn't a lot of photographers in that back end zone at that point because I think a lot of people expected Memphis to keep pushing down the field. This game was not great for photographers. I was running around that stadium with all the chunk plays that was happening. Anyways, yeah, I mean Johnson came it was third, I think it was third, yeah, third down. Johnson comes right off the edge. Memphis quarterback sitting in the pocket and he just hit him straight in the back. Ball comes out, scoops it up. I thought he was going to score, but ended up getting caught, obviously. But that play really got the stadium. I think if people didn't leave at halftime, the stadium would have been rocking at that point. That could have been a huge boost for FAU as well. That's what I was going to get into a little bit. Like the fan base, like you got to stay there if it's a two-score game. You got to stay there if it's a one-score game and in that second half, especially in a game where you could possibly win. Obviously, at that point, it was almost like 20% of the student section left.
yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And we'll get into that a little bit later in the show about the fan base. So, after the touchdown, Brendan Lewis and the offense for Memphis get the ball. And the crazy part about it is we're within 5 points of Memphis with 9 minutes and 40 seconds to go. It's the big catch. It's Brom. Lewis to Brom, 73 yards. It's out left to him. And he breaks a couple tackles. And from there, he is gone. And that just sucked the life out of every single FAU fan from there. We go for it again on a fourth down. He gets stopped. And it was intended to Messer. Messer almost had it. It was a drop there, and there were a bunch of drops. So we'll get into that. After that, under 5 minutes left, and they score again. So from there, the game's over. So Blake, I want to get into this, and it's a new idea on the channel, and I didn't mention this with you before, but I want to start doing player grades. So from what do you want? Do you want to go from 1 to 10? Do you want to go A plus, A minus? What way? Letter grades, number grades.
We,
What do
we,
you
we
want?
can do letters. I mean, let's go. We can do letters, and I'll grade like three players each.
All right, perfect. Let's do 3 players each. So let's start with Caden Velkamp. 318 yards, protected the football, didn't turn it over. However, no touchdowns through the air.
I'll give him a B plus. I think obviously missing out in the red zone a couple times. A lot. I mean, there are some throws that were dropped that weren't on him. I think a B plus is a fair rating. I don't think you can give a quarterback an A if they don't win. If your team doesn't win the football game, although it's obviously a team sport, I feel like um, we did miss out on some opportunities. So I'll give him a B plus.
Yeah, I know. I get your point. You don't want to give a quarterback an A on a losing game, but that was one of the best front sevens in the country. That
Yeah,
was a
I
very
agree.
good defense that, I mean, FAU almost scored more than Arkansas on. And FAU, I thought Caden Velkamp had a good game, protected the football. He used his legs, and you mentioned it. He was the leading rusher as well. He has to get outside the pocket. He's 6'6". He's utilizing his legs because that's a Josh Allen built guy right there. 6'6", same build. If he can use his legs, he could be NFL talent, NFL prospect material. I'm going to give him an A minus. He completed over 60% of his passes, and he had that big
Yeah.
rushing touchdown on the first offensive drive of the game. Let's go over to the defensive side of the ball. And I don't want to go one player on defense because obviously everyone has to do their 111th. I want to go position group by position group. And I want to ask you about this front seven. So, defensive line and linebackers.
Gosh, it's it's a group that has let me down a little bit. I know we talked about it last night when we were going back to my car about 2 players specifically that have been a little bit of a letdown. CJ to get Jr. and Bryce Langston really haven't been contributing on the stat sheet as much as I think we would have expected going into the season. Um, I'm gonna go. I- I'm gonna go D plus. I mean, you have to be able to stop the run. They weren't filling gaps, and that's you can't let running backs get into the second level. At the D1 level, if you let a running back get into that second layer, usually that's where we're going to get hurt. And honestly, this D line really did not do much to prevent the big runs. So a D plus.
So what makes you go D plus and not F?
I think there was some because I think they did do a good job of putting pressure on the quarterback. I think they were able to make him rush some decisions at some points. Obviously, having a strip sack or a fumble or whatever that'll move it up in a really clutch time. Um, I think they showed ability. I mean, the defensive line didn't give Memphis a reason to pass because they were able to kind of disrupt that their Memphis's pass protection a little bit. So I can't go to F. I think D plus is a fair grade because of how poor they were against the run. I think linebackers against the pass also were a little bit of a letdown as well because they did hit a lot of stuff over the middle. When FU gets into man coverage, our linebackers are good, but I think you know if you get a good matchup with an FAU linebacker, sometimes you're gonna win a lot of the time. So I think there's definitely some improvements to be had with both groups. So D plus for today's game
Yeah,
or
and
yesterday's game.
I'll go more in depth on it, Blake. You mentioned the D line in specific. I was expecting the two veteran guys, Doggett and Langston, to get more pressures, get more sacks. So far, Deshaun Batiste and Najon Barber have really impressed me, and Sledge there too on the interior. Deshaun Batiste is going to have a great career if he doesn't transfer. He's still a freshman. He got a sack last night. He got a sack in the FAMU game. He got a fumble recovery in the FAMU game. He was really getting after Lewis. Big bright spot by Deshaun Batiste on the edge last night. Wilkie did not as well was able to get some pressures on the edge. But I'm going to say everyone outside of Deshaun Batiste and Kamari Johnson in that front seven is going to get a F because you can't give up over 300 rushing yards. It's over 300 rushing yards. We're not talking about 100, 200. We gave up more than 300 rushing yards. And you knew
Yeah,
they were going to rush the football, and it was the big play moments. If we held Memphis to 150 rushing yards, we win that game.
I
But
completely agree.
we let them have 350 rushing yards last night. Big negative there. I would give Kamari Johnson himself a B because of the fumble. We're not in the game late without him if he doesn't put the pressure, get that strip sack. And I would give Deshaun Batiste a C plus just because he's on the edge. He does have to stop those outside zones and those stretches that they give to Sutton Smith and DeRozie, but he's not the main problem. They usually go inside zone, not stretch. So
Right.
overall, that's what I would say. I want to go here, Blake, to the offensive line because this is a big problem. Jake Von Nonar didn't play. Jushan Sapp was hurt. Madden Sanker obviously out for the season. Those three stars on the O-line are out. The offensive line gave Caden Velkamp on average 2.8 seconds to throw according to PFF. How'd you say they did?
I'd give him I'd give him a B minus. The run game was really just like you can't win a football game without being able to run the ball. And they did not do a great job in run protection. I think pass protection was great. Even Kitley mentioned it. Great pass protection by that FAU offensive line. Um, I think B minus is more than fair for how ineffective the run game is. But it's like gold and dirt. It's like our pass first run protection. I mean, you can't ask for better pass protection. They're almost 3 seconds to throw the football. No sacks allowed. That's all good but if you can't run the ball, it's not good enough to get an A or to be like just a normal B. B minus, maybe even C plus for the O line.
Yeah, and there were a bunch of penalties, as we mentioned. Alex Okavich had a huge holding call in the third quarter that set FAU back 10 yards while they were inside the 40. That pushed them out of field goal range. Dottie Richardson, no disrespect, but filling in at left tackle. There have been some collapses there on the left side of the O line. But overall, you protected Caden Velkamp, and the run protection wasn't good. Pass protection was pretty solid. I'll give them a B minus as well. Blake, we did the three players. Let's get into one coach, the head coach. Last question here on the show. Look, Kitley's a great guy. Let's be honest. But as reporters, we have to grade him honestly. So, Zach, if you're watching, a lot of still optimism going forward. There is a whole lot of the season left. First year head coach. You're doing a fine job. But Blake, how would you grade Coach Kitley?
Look, in this day and age, a head coach is honestly a GM as well. And I think by this time next year we're gonna have a lot better of idea of what Coach Kitley can be to this program and what I think he will eventually end up being to this program, which is a fantastic head coach and someone that FAU can look to build upon for the future. Um, he's an offensive minded coach, which is what we knew he was gonna be. He's gonna throw the ball a lot, which is what he's doing here at FAU. Um, he's the offensive coordinator as well, so I don't think you can knock the offense that much. I don't think you can knock his play calling that much either. I thought he called a really good game, in my opinion. I think he utilized a lot of different ways to get the football to people. I think he allowed his playmakers to work. He's very I think in comparison to other like college coaches where we've seen fail, he allows his players to work. He allows his players to use their talents. I'm gonna give Kitley. I'm gonna give Kitley a solid B. I feel like the head coach. Obviously, you got a lot of control of what goes on. Uh, I think. I mean, obviously, he's head coach. He has control of offense and defense. I think the defense really like it's chunk plays.
Yep.
You can't call a game because of chunk plays. Like
Yeah,
there's
and
nothing a head coach can do.
yeah, and Blake, although he's the offensive coordinator, he is still the head coach, so he does have to look over both sides of the ball. Yes, Dewhurst is the defensive play caller. I agree with you. And if Coach Kitley, if the game ends with it being 15 points or less and we don't fully collapse in the last 10 minutes, Coach Kitley's getting an A minus from me because
Yeah.
this is a team that's favorites to make the playoffs. This is a playoff team that FAU competed with. FAU was down by 1 point against a playoff team at halftime. FAU had a chance to win in the fourth quarter, but you got to keep the guys you got to keep the energy up. You got to keep the guys playing throughout the entirety of the game. It's 60 minutes. It's not 45 minutes. And that's the
Yep.
problem. You lose by 39. 39 to Memphis. 31 to Memphis. 31 points. I mean, fucking 29 points. Sorry, I said 39, 31, 29 is the sweet spot. 29 points to Memphis. 55-26. If we keep that game 41 to 26, Coach Kitley gets an A minus. But
Yeah.
you lost this game by 29 points. Memphis won by double of what the spread was. It was a collapse. It was a defense's collapse. And too many fourth down going for it, in my opinion. I'm going to give Coach Kitley a C plus, which isn't bad. He passed. C plus passes in the world of grades. Blake, that was a lot of fun. Hopefully next time against Rice we can come out with a win. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Night Owls #1 FAU podcast. Make sure to hit that sub button. Leave a like on the video. It helps us a lot. We're grinding with daily podcasts. Thank you guys so much for sticking through. See y'all in the next one.
Let's go, Alice.